I'm not raising black children. I'm raising children. I'm not raising black men. I'm raising men. And whether you are black or you are white, no matter what race that you are, there are certain things about being a man and being a good man when it comes to character and integrity and safeguarding the helpless and sticking up for those who need it. And being a good man of reputation, none of that has to do with skin color.
Oh, I like this guy. I mean, I wish he was my dad. I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, I have a black father. I'm just saying, I had a black father. I'd much rather, I mean, if I were adopted, and this was it, I mean, man, I would be more, just be honest, I would be more better off with this white man being my father than this black man who didn't want to.
How do we do this as a society these days? How are we turning a white man adopting white man and woman adopting black children into a bad story? We just find the ridiculousness in everything. Hi everybody, welcome back to our channel. Someone sent us a video of an MMA fighter. Him and his wife adopted black kids. I'm sure this is a story that happened like a month or two ago. I think he got criticized. He got actually highly criticized because he adopted two black boys, I believe. Mm-hmm. He made a comment that he's raising them to be men and not necessarily black men. You can put it that way, right? So he said something of that sort. So let's see what he has to say, and then we'll let you know what we think about what he said, if it's right or wrong. Mm-hmm. All right, let's go.
I'm not raising black children. I'm raising children. I'm not raising black men. I'm raising men. And whether you are black or you are white, no matter what race that you are, there are certain things about being a man and being a good man when it comes to character and integrity and safeguarding the helpless and sticking up for those who need it. And being a good man of reputation, none of that has to do with skin color. Everything has to do with the character of the man. I know how much pressure I put on myself to be a good man, to be a good husband, to be a good father. And it's the most important thing that I will ever do in my entire life. I could win the world title 1,000,000 times over and make all the money and be the guy that the whole world wants to be like, or wants to follow, or wants to emulate. But being a father, being a man that your children get to look up to is the most important thing that I will ever do in my entire life. And I know how much I've wanted to be a father for a very, very long time. It needed to be the right time. So it was a scary embarking on a new journey. And it all happened very, very quickly. It was all perfectly timed the way it was supposed to be. There was even little delays here and there. That once again, a delay is not always a bad thing. God's timing works out exactly the way that it's supposed to every single time. And as human beings, we question it and we second guess it, or we're mad at God because this didn't happen or this door closed. But so many times doors close, or doors stay closed or stay locked until the exact right.
I mean, yeah, I think every time, God's timing is all about, to me, because I know that I can be a stubborn woman, that the real problem with God's timing, why people have a problem with it, is because we're not in control anymore. Mm-hmm. And when you're someone who, like, I'm a newer Christian, so when you're someone who's used to not relying, like, I always believed in God, but I never relied on him. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so when you really start to read the Bible and you really start relying on God, it takes a lot. On one instance, it takes the pressure off. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, it puts the pressure on because now you don't get to steer the wheel anymore. Mm-hmm. You have to give the will to God. So, I mean, just when he said that, I thought to myself, God's timing is always perfect. Our timing never is. I mean, my past should tell me that my timing is always wrong. Right. But there is this sort of wanting to do it yourself and wanting everything to happen on your timing that you're always struggling with, or I'm always struggling with. I won't speak for other people. I'm always struggling when it comes to my faith. I'm always having to say, Kara, stop. Because you're thinking in your own understanding. But that's beside the point of what he's saying. It's just when he said that, it hit me.
I will say this, though, that whenever I have leaned on my own understanding, it's always been a disaster.
Big thumbs down.
It's always, it's like truly every time it has been like a disaster. So, I always tell people, this was told to me, there's one thing by a dear friend of mine who passed away, but It's one thing to believe in God, it's another thing to trust in God. And trust in God is the key. That is the key. It's not just the believing, although we get that, but it's the trusting part. That's your net. That's your safety net there. That's the part you have to, fully take in. But okay, I'm sorry.
But anyway,
Exact right time that they're supposed to, and it all happened very quickly. And we spent 2 weeks in a hotel room and bought a bunch of baby stuff because it all happened so fast. And it was, looking back, it was so chaotic. There was a time where we thought we might just be one and done, because she's a career woman and I'm a career man, and we take it so seriously that it's so important to us that, do we have the amount of resources that we need? Do we have the amount of bandwidth that we need? And she's cut back and I've cut back or made certain sacrifices. Like even, I train in Florida, but I fly home every single weekend on Friday and then hop on the Sunday flight. And that's a physical sacrifice that I make on my body to make sure that I am home and present with the boys for a couple days during training camp. It doesn't matter. I made the decision that if my fight career suffers because I want to hop on a plane every single weekend and brave the unknown of possibly being a little bit extra sore or stiff or a little bit more injury prone, or maybe I get a little bit sick or whatever it might be, it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make, because time with them is the most important time that I will have. So if you can look back and see how it was orchestrated, there was times that we thought about it, but it just never really made sense, never really worked out. But the time that we got with Hap, him being an only child for years, was probably exactly what he needed from his own unique perspective and how he is. And he's a wonderful, wonderful big brother.
I have a tough question to ask you, but I think it's important. So your adopted children are black.
Yep.
I would imagine if it hasn't happened already, there are going to be tough issues that you're going to encounter with them. Both a lot of questions, maybe things that you can't relate to. I mean, have you thought about how you're going to tackle stuff like that when it arises?
Yeah. Well, number one, you'd never know when the tough questions are going to come, when the situations are going to arise. So it's more praying for wisdom every single day. James 1:5, he who lacks wisdom, ask for it, and the Lord your God will give it abundantly. Because whether it be me and my family, my children, being a father, or my fight career, my business, whatever it might be, just asking for wisdom and just asking that I will have the right answers to the questions in the moment and give them to me, give me the wisdom in the moment, because the situations will arise. And it's so obvious. Obviously, if you look at the way my boys look compared to me, you say, okay, well, their skin is dark and his skin is light. We are a biracial family. But when I see them, they look exactly like me. When I see them, I can't imagine my sons not looking not like me as the world would see it, right? So it's praying for wisdom and asking for wisdom. And it's also trying to bulletproof them as much as possible when it comes to their mindset and their self-esteem and their self-concept. Because there's been moments, I'm sure, that has arose, and my son and sons who want to be just like me, they want to be just like me, but they know that their skin color is different than me. That's the way that God made them. My son Hap is going to be probably 6 inches taller than I am because he's already, much taller, right? So we are going to look different in a lot of different ways, but we're so similar in all the ways that matter. We're so similar in all the ways that matter. And you get this question too, where it's like, well, hey, you're a white dude from Missouri living in Nashville. How are you going to raise black children? And my thought is, and it probably rubs people the wrong way, and it's probably the wrong answer that people want to hear, is I'm not raising black children. I'm raising children. I'm not raising black men. I'm raising men. And whether you are black or you are white, no matter what race that you are, there are certain things about being a man and being a good man when it comes to character and integrity and safeguarding the helpless and sticking up for those who need it and being a good man of reputation. None of that has to do with skin color. Everything has to do with the character of the man. And like I said, it's probably probably not an answer that some people would say is important, but that's where the world has gone, where we think that the most important thing about us is our skin color or our gender or our sex or our political affiliation or all these different identity politics or the identities that we put on each other, when really we're just human beings on this earth. And there are certain things about being a good person that transcend skin color and age and sex and religion and all of those different things.
I love that answer.
He's right. You already know that the criticism he got was because of him saying that he teaches his children, he's not raising black kids or black boys, he's raising just men. He's trying to raise boys, and putting the color aside. And I think that is the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, and there's also this, the black community got mad at him, but, the thing is that I would love to adopt a child.
Me too.
You know what I mean? I've always wanted to adopt kids. You know what I mean? But I'm black, and I would raise my kids the exact same way. Mm-hmm. You are people. This is why I don't like walking around calling each other kings and queens like we did that last video. And I said, what's wrong with just being a man and a woman?
Yeah, what happened?
What's wrong with just being a child of God? What's wrong with just being people? Mm-hmm. Why do we have to be black people, white people, Asian people? You know what I mean? Why is the emphasis always on those things, those characteristics, but the things that really matter, like he said, being a man.
Right. That's what's important.
If I had a daughter, I would be treating her to be a woman. Not a black woman, but a woman.
Yeah. What stood out to me with this, the fact that this man wants to be a father so bad, that in itself is just beautiful. Mm-hmm. Because there are men who abandon their responsibilities, and they have kids out there they never even met, don't even know, don't even care about. Right? And just left. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you see a man here that is going through hell and high water to try to get these kids, try to get his children and with his wife as well, by the way, his wife as well, and trying to create his own family regardless of the way that they look, or, he's not even thinking about that. He's just talking about he always wanted to be a dad. Okay? And that stood out more to me than anything, because to me that's the most important thing. And I also will add that there are a lot of black children that need to be adopted. I know it might be cringy when I'm saying this, but they are easier to get.
Black people
kids
don't adopt.
They don't adopt. Black people do not adopt as much as
mad at
other
this white man for
cultures.
taking black kids, but black people don't adopt. Bodie Bacham has 9 children. 2 of them are him and his wife's natural children, but the other 7 are all adopted. And he said black people do not adopt. That's why we were able to get so many. Yeah. And one of his children comes from incest, and one of them comes from rape. Mm-hmm. And he said, I love my kids like they're my natural kids. And he was just like, but black people do not adopt.
And so we have a white man here, a man, okay, but he's white, who sees the beauty in these boys just because he sees it. Mm-hmm. As he said, that I know that our skin color is different, but I look at my sons and they look like me. And I know what he means by that. Yeah. He's not talking. He's talking about character.
He's talking about, right.
Yeah. He's not talking. He's talking about godly sense. He's talking about the image of God. He's not talking about the fact that these are black boys and that he's a white man. This is to me, I feel like that's limited thinking. Mm-hmm. When people only base things off of race, that to me is a limited thinking person. That is someone who is not going to be willing to think outside of the box and maybe just think that there is a man here that has a love of kids.
Because I don't even know if they have kids. I think these are their kids.
No, these are the kids. These are their kids. And I think I give look, anybody who wants to save a child, you have my vote. Like I have nothing bad to say about this man, based just on that alone, because there's a lot of kids sitting in orphanages that are not getting picked, that were abandoned or other circumstances, and we have 2 people here that are are doing God's work.
The first time I didn't see this part, but I saw the part where he went on to talk about when he puts his kids to bed.
Yeah.
And he tells his son every night that I'm so proud to be your father.
Yeah.
And I saw it because Blanche was watching it.
Yeah.
And Blanche was saying, could you imagine? I could never imagine. My father actually said to me, I am proud, because his father, I think, went to jail, and he wasn't a good father.
Yeah.
And he's like, if my father, he said, you know what kind of man I would be today if my father put me to bed every night and said, I'm proud to be your father. And I thought to myself, do you know how I would feel, where I would be if my father did that? And here we're mad at a man because he wants to raise these black kids. And he's saying things like that before they go to bed, and he's trying to teach them to be a man. And the most important thing is, you're mad at him because he's not black.
Priorities, people. What are we talking about here? What are we actually talking about here?
I mean, this man and his wife just adopted 2 black children, and they're going to have a gold star life because they make a nice living. That means they live well.
Yeah.
So they're going to get better education. They're going to get all this, but we're mad that he's not black. And we focused on that, except for all that he just said, just here.
So all I know is that because he's not focused on the black-white issue in this circumstance, all I know is that he's going to raise good men, good, decent men. The outcome is highly likely that's what it's going to be. Because he's not just saying you are just your skin tone, which is what we've been talking about for a while now. There are more qualities to people than just their skin tone and their gender. And when we limit ourselves to just those things, I feel like we limit our possibilities and our opportunities, and just our mindset gets limited because we are only saying, like, I'm black first, I'm a woman first, or, I'm gay first, whatever it is you got, whatever it is. When you are identifying just with those things, you are now putting yourself in a box that many people don't really want to be around. Like my sister, because I know we have a lot of new subscribers, but my sister and I, our father was not in our lives. We are not rare, my sister and I, right? So fatherless children are not rare, and I'm gonna speak on the black community right now because that's so prevalent, right? So prevalent. But we are the rule in the black community, where you don't have a father. Fathers are not around. And it's a very small percentage of them who have passed away. Majority of black fathers have left the responsibility. And they have just gone on to do whatever, right? And that is what our circumstance, was. So when I see, that's why I'm saying in the beginning, when I see a man get excited about being a father, it almost is like, wow, I can't even fathom in my younger Daniel years, like someone would be excited about being a father. So whenever I hear people get, excited about that and love talking about being a dad and what that means to be a dad, I think Father's Day is coming up, isn't it? Yeah. They get excited about being a dad, like it really warms my heart because it's like a lot of people do not see that excitement. I guess it's weird how we are with color. It's almost interesting. It's interesting that we don't give children enough credit either. Let's talk about the kids for a minute. Kids understand more than what you think they understand. Okay, kids are not stupid. Their children know that they are a different color than their parents. Okay, that will come into question, obviously, because that's natural, right? But what is going to be, to me, I feel like what is going to stand out more in their children's lives is not going to be that. That might be a question. What's going to be more prevalent in their life and more, memorable in their life is going to be the way they were raised with concrete, a good man and a good woman, a God-fearing people. These are people who are instilling values, decency, integrity, strength. These are people who are instilling that into their children. And you're telling me that they have to be diminished down to the color of their skin? No.
Well, because like we were saying, the country in itself needs a change of heart.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we spend too much time on these worldly things that we don't think of anything else.
Right.
And we get lost in it and we don't really realize, like, instead of being mad at this white man for having these black kids, where is his father?
Right.
Where is the black father?
Dude, yeah.
Of these kids? Where's the black mother?
What happened?
Now, they could be dead.
It could be something could happen.
But I'm going to guess.
Because we're the rule. The rule, remember?
That's not the truth.
That's, yeah.
You know what I mean? And the thing is, Danielle, the last 2 serious relationships me and Danielle had, we never knew our father, really. I mean, we met him once. But both the men we dated in 2 different states didn't know their fathers at all.
No.
Black men.
Most of the
never met them. Like, never, don't even, you know what I mean?
Never met them. Gone. Most of the people that I know don't know their fathers. Black people that I know don't know their fathers.
And this is why I stress black fathers so much.
Yeah.
I think that
they're so important.
Daniel was just talking about Father's Day. I think Father's Day gets treated like Flag Day and Mother's Day gets treated like Christmas.
Yeah.
And I think there's something really wrong with that because men in general are the backbone of it's where we get our discipline. It's where we get our, like, everything that man said, it's what you get from your dad.
Yeah.
You don't really get it from your mom.
Yeah.
Your mom gives you nurturing and, you know, she's your cheerleader and, you know, that's what a mom's supposed to do, though. So it's not a bad thing. That's what a feminine energy is. Masculine energy gives you a sense of protection, a sense of being, like, steadfast and on time and discipline and you know, that structure that you're supposed to have. That's what you get from men. And too much of the black community doesn't have that.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people complaining. We have a lot of people abandoning, a lot of men in jail, a lot of, you know, even the ones that have money, like Al Sharpton, complaining about being black. And this is what we have, too much whining.
Yeah.
And it's caused a big single mother rate, a big abortion rate, a huge welfare rate, you know, and nobody wants to talk about that.
Right.
But out of all of this, what this man said, the only thing you came out of it with was that he was white.
That's the big takeaway.
I mean,
big takeaway is that
if I
white.
adopted a child, this would be, I'm not raising my daughter to be a black woman. I'm raising her to be a woman. To be ready for the world when I'm out here. What do you mean?
What was the black
Me and white women, we're both women. We were both going to want to get married. We're going to both want to have children.
Right.
I mean, there is really no difference in that, except for the fact that I'm darker and she's not.
Do you guys realize what happens to kids when one or both parents are gone? Right? And particularly the structure part, which would be the father. He would be the foundation. Normally, traditionally, it would be a foundation, the strength, the backbone of the family, the disciplinarian, typically this is what that is. Now when you remove that, you get a lot of lost kids, right? For girls, when you take away a father out of the home, you get a lot of girls because girls are emotional and they start looking for love in the form of what a father figure would be.
You get us.
Yeah, that's another thing.
I'm saying you get me and Danielle. We didn't have a father. We were raised. We didn't know him. He was just gone. He was alive and living around here. He just didn't take care of us. You know what I mean? And my mother ended up doing it all by herself. And so what I'm saying is that you get women who don't understand what it means to be loved by a man. Don't understand what kind of men to look for. You get you really, even if you want to get married and have kids, you don't know what you're supposed to look for. You don't know what that is. And so you're forced to have to figure it out yourself.
Yeah, right.
But when you have a father in the house that loves their mother, you know what I mean? Then you guys are showing us how to adult.
Yeah.
You're showing us what marriage is. This is why marriage is so important with children.
Kids mimic what they see, mostly. So if they are seeing the example of a 2-parent home, they are more than likely going to be they're going to create their own 2-parent home with their children, and so on and so on and so on. But when there's a link missing, then there's a part of you that doesn't have that, and so there's going to be some void there and some abandonment issues that happen. And so when you insert like a father into the situation, it does plug up the holes.
It's like we were watching that Jesse Lee Peterson video about when the BLM guy was on there.
Yeah,
and Jesse Lee Peterson talked about the fatherlessness in the black community. And the man literally basically said that women can do it by themselves.
Yeah,
black man sitting there talking to another black man.
Men are necessary.
And he was just like, a woman can do it on her own.
No.
He basically said that. And he didn't even give his own gender any kind of real purpose. He's following 3 black women.
Right.
And he's sitting there emotional with his BLM shirt. And when Jesse Lee talks about something other than race and how we can fix ourselves in the situation, he literally, in an attempt to reject Jesse, just says, black women are queens and they can take care of kids all by themselves. No, they can't. That's terrible.
But again, this is the new mentality of a lot of men right now. Like, I don't know. I don't see it that way. I think it's because we lived it. Like we're not just talking to be talking. We're actually, we lived what we're saying. Like, we know what it looks like when you don't have that other part in the equation. You know, when the other part's not in the equation, you're gonna miss some steps. Right? And then what happens is, I say this quite often, but what happens is you learn late, which is what happened, at least, you know, with me, is that I learned a lot of things late, especially when it came to like men and, you know, and being, you know, my mother taught me how to be a lady and all this, you know, that was her job. But the other part, she
couldn't teach me how to be a wife.
She's not a man.
She couldn't teach me how to be a wife because she wasn't one.
Yeah, she couldn't teach me me what to look out for a man because she's not a man and she doesn't know that. But you know, a father could taught, you know, that. Now, when you get older, when you become an adult, it is now your responsibility to figure out what your problem is, right? And most women in our situation are going to learn later. We're not going to connect the dots of, oh, it's because I don't have a father. That's why I'm the way I am. That's why I'm choosing the people that I'm choosing. It's because that father, but we don't get that memo in our head. It doesn't happen like that. We find out, we figure that out much later. And then by the time most women in our situation figure out, we're older. And so I know a lot of people ask this question often, like, you know, there's a lot of women, you know, black women who don't get married at all, or get married older. And, you know, a lot of it, I would bet, would be because a lot of them come from a single parent home and they didn't see the example of that. There's something to be said with, you know, having both parties there. And so him and his wife making a decision to be a parent, period, is just, to me, like, that needs to get the standing ovation alone, only because they didn't have to do that, but they did. And so I get a little bit annoyed when I hear people focusing on the fact that the kids are black. I couldn't even believe it. I'm like, that's why people are mad. I don't know if it's in this video, the comment section, but there's a black man that said, no, he needs to teach them that they're black. And this is the part where I say that you're not giving kids enough credit. People know who they are, okay? He never once said that he's going to tell him he's something else besides black. He also can look in the mirror and see that he's black. So I don't know if you're saying that he should, he's not going to get the indoctrination conversation. Well, when the police come and you know, this whole police conversation and start to get the victim mentality stuff going on. I guarantee you this man's obviously not going to be doing that. But anybody who's mad, he's not going to have, I guess, give his sons the black man talk. Is that what we're talking about here? Because I feel like he's giving him the man talk, which is going to far get him further in life than any of the other talk. I'm telling you right now, if you teach your kids character, integrity, you know, hard work, moving forward, right and wrong, admitting to their mistakes, and this outweighs the black talk by far to me.
I think what it does is just shines a light on the responsibility of black people. So when they see white people do something right, it makes us look like we're doing something wrong. So instead of just saying, you know, good job or whatever, we feel intimidated by the circumstance, and we're like, oh God, now he's going to try to take credit for. Yeah. I'm like, well, I mean, look.
I mean, credit for what? He's just talking about he's a father. What do you mean? Yeah, he's going to take credit for what he is. What do you mean? Yes.
It's like, even when we talk about black fathers, we'll say, what we're basically saying is we need you. But you don't hear that. You hear we're not good enough.
We're not good enough, yeah.
And we're just saying, we're saying you matter. Yeah. But you're saying you don't.
Right. You're internalizing
it. Your feelings are internalizing. Oh, these two black women don't like black men. Yeah. I know. I've only dated black men.
That's another thing, is that we get that all the time too. Oh, well, you guys are always on the white side.
I've never dated a white man in my life.
Yeah, you guys are just like white men. I'm like,
sorry.
You guys are probably those kind of women are only with white men. I'm like, no,
never dated a white man in my life.
We have both never dated a white man in our entire life. It has nothing to do with that. What all we're doing is looking at the logic and what these particular white men
I probably won't
say.
be able to now. I'm probably going to be single for the rest of my life because I date black men and now they all hate me because I'm telling the truth. But so that's probably it for me. You know what I mean? So but that's the bullet I'm going to have to take.
I guess we're out of the pool now.
I guess I'm totally out of the pool. Yeah, but. They mostly date white women because there's not enough of us.
I know someone said that to us too on our comments. They were like, it was a black man. He was conservative, and he was like, it's hard to find black women who think like you ladies. And I said to him, I said, now it's funny you say that because it's hard for black women to find conservative men that think like you. I was like, and here's my theory on the whole thing is that there are so few black conservative men and so few black conservative women that we can't find each other.
So we end up dating outside our
race.
race.
So what happens is that we end up dating outside of our race. That's what ends up happening. So people always go, for instance, example is Brandon Tatum. He gets crap for he's married to a white woman, right? So he gets crap for that. And I'm like, yeah, but he's conservative. It is going to be hard for him. It is.
That's what I'm saying. I probably won't date again.
Shut up, Kara.
This will probably be it for me. You know what I mean? Simply because when I started telling the truth. No, I'm just being serious though. Because
you're doing too much.
Because the truth is that most black people because like Larry Elder's married to or dating a white woman, and Candace Owens is married to a white man, and I think Jericho Green is married to a woman that's of another race, and even ABL, they're all married to different. But it's just because when you think twins. This, Shadow Jackson's married to a white woman.
Twins are
when you think like this, it is very hard to find black people who actually think outside of their skin color.
There's too few of us,
and when you do that, you become and a lot of black men think like that. They don't think like Brandon Tatum.
Yeah.
There a lot of them think like I can think of all the men I've ever dated and they all think like that. And I just don't. I can't get turned on by a man who lives in victimhood. It turns me off as a woman. I can't take it. You know what I mean? It's pathetic. You know what I mean?
And
that's how I see it. You know what I mean?
Black men have a hard time finding conservative thinking women because it is hard to find a conservative thinking woman.
So,
it is. So, but yeah. Anyways, But I always think about this when people talk about black and white. It's like, like the topics, like we talk about this because we want to expose how ridiculous it is. This is why we bring up these topics, by the way, because we want to expose how ridiculous it is to call yourself a queen and a king. How ridiculous it is to be mad at Donald Trump for trying to help black people. How ridiculous it is for this man to adopt 2 black kids and get ridiculed for it. It doesn't. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But we want to show this. We want to talk about this. So we can show the ridiculousness of it all. But yeah,
so I like this guy. I wish he was my dad. I'm just saying. I have a black father. I'm just saying. I had a black father. I'd much rather. If I were adopted, and this was it. I would be more. Just be honest. I would be better off with this white man being my father than this black man who didn't want to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
I'm just saying.
Why is this a bad story?
I don't know. I thought it was a feel-good story, to be honest with you.
I don't know how this got turned into a bad story when I haven't heard anything so beautiful before in my life. Right. I'm like, how did this turn? How do we do this as a society these days? How are we turning a white man white man and woman adopting black children into a bad story? We just find the ridiculousness in everything. Like I'm excited for this guy. Like I'm excited for his children because it's exciting. So when you don't have a dad, you weren't raised with a father. Like I don't see
like
it
Father's
like
Day's not gonna be anything for them.
No, we don't celebrate it because there's nothing.
That's not gonna be anything for us.
So it's kind of like when I see these kind of stories, I actually do get a little irritated. I get irritated with people who would chastise a man like this or criticize this family. It's like, what? There are people who were not brought up with a father.
Right. And if it weren't for this guy, they wouldn't be celebrating Father's Day either.
Exactly. And I'm like, and we are talking about the fact, it's so stupid. Like, I can't even think of another word that can, fully express how dumb it is to be criticizing a guy like this.
Yeah.
And can I just also reiterate, this man never said he's going to teach his child not to be black or not to recognize the fact that he's black. He never said that.
But how can they not?
But that's why he's talking more about character, because that's why I keep saying you're not giving children enough credit. He knows he's a black kid. He's looking in the mirror every day. He knows he's a black person. This is 2024. Okay? Yeah. We all have mirrors. He knows what he looks like, okay? We don't need to put an extra emphasis on the obvious, right? But if they're talking about he's not going to teach them black history, well, good. Because I don't think anyone should be taught black history. Be taught to be American. That's what you need to be taught to be American.
Right. I mean, he'll look down and see he's darker. I'm black. Now what? When I was a little girl, though, this is funny. When I was a little girl, and we spent every weekend with my grandmother.
We did.
And my grandmother's white. And so all my uncles and aunts are all biracial. And my mom is really, 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 really light.
Yeah.
So she almost looks white. If you're not really...
She looks white.
Like, she looks white. You know what I mean? So one day I was just listening to adult conversation, and I heard someone say that, or heard my grandmother said she was white. Anyway, it's the first time I did realize my grandmother was white. And I think I was like 4 or something, 4 or 5 or something.
Black.
And I said, wait a minute. I said, are you white? Because we lived in a black neighborhood.
Yeah.
She lived in a black neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I thought she was just light skinned, like the rest of my mom and my uncles and my aunts and everything. They all laughed. They were like,
yeah.
I was like, and I looked at my mother and said, are you white? It's true. And kids are funny like that because you just dawned on you. Like race never dawned on me.
It never dawned.
Ever when I was a kid, until that one adult conversation happened and my grandmother said something about, she just mentioned that she was white, and it just I was like, oh, you white?
It just never dawned on me.
This never dawned on me that she was white.
But it just shows you how, like, when you don't, and because of that, we've always had like open mind. We never really based everything on color like that.
No, not really.
Not really. Until we got indoctrinated into believing everything's about color. Mm-hmm. Into like high school and stuff like that. We start to talk about black history and stuff like that. We got brainwashed.
Yeah.
We got brainwashed along with the other black people in the world, and to believing that color was the reason why you get this or you don't get that. All right, guys. Let us know what you think. Please leave comments below. We would love to hear your thoughts on this. And that's it. We will see you guys in the next video. Bye.